Good morning, and welcome to another belated episode of The Bohemian Disciple. Today we will be discussing the first part of what I hope is a 10-part, trying to put together a 10-part discussion of Confessions of a Sinner by a Spanish reformer named Constantino Ponce de la Fuente. He was killed by the Inquisition and kind of forgotten and erased. They know about him in Spain, but very few people who know the history of the Reformation and the Inquisition remember Dr. Constantino. His confession is ordered after the 10 commandments in the Decalogue, what we call the 10 commandments, because Decalogue is a little bit, you say 10 commandments is redundant. And of course, in the Inquisition, they wanted you to make confession, make an act of faith. I don't know if this precisely was for that. That is not what my research has led me to believe, but it fits. It's his confession starts with the first commandment, and according to the Catholic teaching, the way the Catholic Church explores the commandments, the first two commandments, what we would call the first two commandments, thou shalt have no other gods before me, and thou shalt not make any graven image, are put together. And then the commandment to honor father and to honor mother are two separated commandments. And so this is the first commandment, what we would call the first two commandments. There's the one to have no gods before him, and then there's a word against spiritual idolatry. I'm just going to read Dr. Constantino's, and it's a couple of pages here, what he says, because there's commenting on it really takes away from it. This is a commentary in his confession to violating what we would call the first two commandments. Being drawn by such thy benefits, to love thee with all my heart, to have my will absorbed in thy service, and to have all my faculties quickened in the practice of those works wherein thou wills that they can be characterized, who are made in thy likeness, I turn a deaf ear to them all. I open the door of my heart to your enemies and mine. The temple consecrated to thy abode was, with my consent, made to harbor those who insulted and outraged your majesty. Where I ought to have received blessing from your hand, I received a curse and the darkness of Satan. Such, Lord, were the quarters, and such the reception given to thy grace by my sin. This was the image which you did stamp upon me, guarded by me. It was as though I were prepared to spend my life, or indeed 1,000 lives, in so disgusting myself that when you, Lord, sought me, you would not have known me. You alone have created me, and you alone have redeemed me, and you alone have sought me in my miseries in order to deliver me from them, solely dependent upon your goodness, eternity, and infinity. Of such importance to me, I nevertheless made my heart as many idols as were the interest of my iniquities. What a confession. He leaves no room for mistake or doubt or being tempted or misled. He says, this is what I did, this is who I am, this is who I have become, and this is who I have made of myself. What particularly sticks in my mind is where he talks about disguising himself with his sin. So if the Lord were to seek him, if he could make himself unknowable to God, he would have. What a description of sin. This is what sin does to us. This is what we do. And it's this is what we do in sin. It's interesting to me how we talk about our nature as being, our fallen nature as being human nature, when it's very clear that God didn't make us this way. What is fallen and broken about us is something that we have done to ourselves. And so we lose ourselves in a way that is completely and thoroughly our fault and an act of our will. But frequently and passionately, we find ways to blame our loss somebody else. Let's continue reading what Dr. Constantino says about spiritual idolatry. Were you, O my God, to ask me who I am, I could not reply that I am an Israelite. I am the stock of Abraham, chosen to be yours. O Lord, my ancestors were Canaanites. My father was an Amorite. My mother was a Hittite. I am of those who have defaced your works, of those who have greatly provoked your wrath, of those who, forgetful of your blessing, have sought them to exalt themselves without loving your grace or fearing your wrath, of those who have ordered their own pleasures, pride, and shame, of those who have followed devils and have sold their souls to them, and have prayed to them to attain their desires. I have no other men to whom I may be compared, save such as those whom you have denounced, whose works I know I have followed. For the obedience and reverence which are due to you alone, I have paid to my appetites, to my sinful lusts, and to their favorite objects. Other idols, the creations of my sins and my lusts, and the objects of their reverence, my heart truly paid devotion. To you who alone are the true God, to you who alone are my God, my devotion was falsehood and a lie. I indeed invoke them, while my invocation of you was a mockery. On them my hope was fixed, but I distrusted you. I called on you, but I fled from you. I said, you were my God, and I lied. I asked pardon for my treasons perpetrated against you. I asked you to show grace, disbelieving that you were gracious, so that I invoked you to such ends and aims as were suggested by the shamelessness and blasphemy of my heart, which would have you to be like myself. I distrusted you, God. I used you to my own ends. I used all of the right words without the heart and the motive to serve and love you. This, my friend, my brother, my sister, convicts me. I think it should convict all of us. Because this is the state of our church today. We have just enough of the confession that we've been taught by religion to soothe our consciences and make us live in a way that we have deemed suitable to God. We've decided is suitable and acceptable to God. And we have not pursued His pleasure, sought His face, and His righteousness and His holiness. But we've sought our own pleasure and used His name to sanctify all of our pleasures. Dr. Constantino has 9 more confessions. I hope you can join me for the rest of it. God bless you.